All right, so good afternoon to those of you out here in the US. Good evening to those of you in Europe. And good morning, Brisbane. Always good to have folks from all across the globe with us for me this afternoon for our latest Viz for Social Good meetup. We've got quite a bit to cover today, so I'm just going to jump right in and get us going, except my mouse is not working. There we go. So again, if you know I'm emceeing and I'm running the show, then at the end, we're going to grab a photo because Chloe always likes to have photos. And so she got me started that whenever I MC, we're going to grab a photo. But typically we do it at the end. So please stay with us, hang on with us. And at the end, we'll have an opportunity to see everybody's smiling face back on the screen and get a picture, and you'll see it tweeted out and on LinkedIn and whatnot. So please stay with us, hang on to the end. And again, we are recording. So we are recording the session so that folks who couldn't be with us can watch the recording, and we will have another session for other time zones for Fred later on Saturday. For the rest of us on Saturday, we'll have another session. So today we just want to again have a opening and a welcome and a reminder of who Viz for Social Good is. We'll just take a couple minutes just to have a little bit of volunteer stories, hear from a volunteer or two, get the introduction to our next project, Bridges to Prosperity, which is a great project, which we've done a project with them in the past. So it's great to welcome them back to Viz for Social Good again. We want to launch our new Viz for Social Good Champions, and folks will tell you all about that initiative. And then if we haven't told you enough, we'll have a chance for a Q&A at the end. If anybody has any questions they want to ask any of us, we'll be happy to answer any questions from you all at the end. So David, let me pass it off to you, and let's give the folks a little bit of background to Viz for Social Good if they haven't already known all about these things.
Thank you very much. And as Doc mentioned, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to spend this hour with us here at Viz for Social Good. My name is David. I co-lead with Vanita Lucas and a great board of directors. We've been together for a while in terms of setting up this as well. Of course, this whole idea came out of Chloe. It's great that she was able to join us today as well. She's our founder for Viz for Social Good. But before we get started, I really wanted to just take a few minutes to go back to our roots and the reason why Viz for Social Good exists, why are we here. So we exist to connect data skilled professionals with charities and nonprofits. What started really as a community initiative, Viz for Social Good, is now a charity in its own right. Over the last 5 years, we together have been able to support organizations across the world, from organizations in Australia, in Tanzania, which was just the last project we had, in the United Kingdom, also in the US. We have been able and had the pleasure of working with nonprofits that are making a difference in public health, in access to education, and many other causes that impact millions across the globe. Of course, we couldn't do this without the generous time contributions from our volunteers. And what you see on the screen is our intro to the slide, which you can go there and explore and kind of see some of the things that we have done in the past, some of the projects, learn a little bit more about the team that is behind the social Good, and also contact us if you have questions. If you could move on to the next slide, please. And then, much like the organizations that we've had the pleasure to partner with, our volunteers come from all parts of the world, with almost 50 countries represented and almost 1,000 submissions. Today, the launch of the Champions program is really a small way that we have found for Visual Social Good to recognize the regular contributions. Those volunteers that keep coming back time and time again for every single project that we do and contributing to support Visual Social Good and the charities and nonprofits that we partner with. So as Doc was saying, stay with us for the next hour. We have a new project starting soon, and you will also learn about the Champions program. From myself personally and all the group that sits behind with Visual Social Good, we thank you for being a part of Visual Social Good, and we hope to see many of you in next few calls as well. Doc, back to you.
All right, thanks, David. Again, if you haven't already, go to visforsocialgood.com and you can look through our previous projects. You can get contact information. You can sign up if you haven't already to get on our email list. So you'll find out about events like this. So I assume if you're here, you probably have already done that. But again, for those of you watching the recording, visforsocialgood.com is our website where you can find all this information. And we thought that today it might be good just to have a quick chat with one of our volunteers. So I see that Johanna is here. Johanna, would you care to tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience being a volunteer?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Morning, afternoon, evening. I think I already list everything. Yeah, so I'm Joanna. I'm currently based in Sydney. I'm from Indonesia. It's pretty early today. Yeah, so sorry if my sound kind of is quite different from usual. I've been having flu from last week, so that's that. Yeah, so I started being a volunteer from September last year. So that's the first time I was searching for, I was trying to polish my Tableau skills. And after that, I was just Googling things, and finally I found Vis for Social Good. So yeah, I found it from Google, surprise, surprise. And from there, it has been a really, you could say, a rewarding experience. And yeah, anyway, if you're volunteering for any nonprofit, it's always really rewarding because you're learning new skills, you're practicing it really hands-on because it's real data. But at the same time, you're, especially after you already made your visualization, and then the nonprofits were like really happy and they get insights from their data. It's just a really, you could say it's indescribable experience. Yeah, so it's really recommended to participate in projects and do it, and just go for it.
Yep. And at the end of each project, the charity or the nonprofit will select some of the visualizations, and we will reach out to the volunteers and see if they can come and have a session with us where they present their visualization and get feedback from the charity. And I know you've done that a number of times. What's that experience like?
Oh yeah. Actually, it's quite the first time I get selected. It's really, I get a major imposter syndrome. I don't feel like it's actually that good. But yeah, it's a really different experience. Just making one moment. Yep. Yeah, the cow is still there. Yeah, it's a really different experience after you present your dashboard and show all your insights. It's very different because just making it for the real people who will really use it, and especially after every presentation, you could see all their smiling faces from the nonprofits. And they'll be sharing stories also, like if you're visualizing, let's say, about their impacts, about the people that they're actually helping. It's and then they will also share their story, which is it's very cool, and you can relate like what the numbers actually mean something, and yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, it's really important that we have such a great group of volunteers and that we have a great group of charities and nonprofits that we work with. And so it really is nice, and we have fun, right? When we get you together and have the volunteers show off what they've come up with, and have the charities and nonprofits learn some things about their organization. From having all these outside views come and take a look at their data and see what stories they can tell. So again, we have a lot of fun with it, and it really helps our members grow their skills. We recently had some awards for some folks who got some awards at the Tableau conference primarily for their participation in the project. So it's really fun for us to see the volunteers grow and their skills get better, and to see the impact we have with the organizations. I kind of went out of order here. We did skip something, and I apologize. When David was done, I was going to go to Chloe and say, Chloe, you're our founder. You are here. Would you like to say something to the group? And I forgot about that. So let me say, Chloe, would you like to say something to the group since you're here today? And we really appreciate you and the beginnings that you did for this organization. And we're proud to try and carry the torch.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And how dare you? You're skipping. Just kidding. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. Joanna and everybody, Abbie, Christina, all the Martina, all the beautiful faces. It's so exciting to see you all here. And yeah, just want to share a little bit about how we started this for social good. And why we started, because when I first moved to Silicon Valley, I was just surrounded by a lot of entrepreneur, founders, coder. They are trying to build in the next Google or Facebook, and it's just so intimated and just feeling as a data visualization creator, how can we do something to really make the difference to the world? And it just feels like I'm just making sure every day, can I really do something to move the world? And one day I got to attend Helena Price. She's a photographer, and she took 100 photos of underrepresented people in Silicon Valley and really used that as a way to drive a conversation about diversity and inclusion. And that was really, really inspiring to me. And she was telling at the event, say that literally everyone can leverage their own strengths to make the difference. And that really hit me. I was like, wait, visualization is super powerful. We can definitely do that and to make this world a better place. And that's how we started this for social good, really connecting all the talent people, all the beautiful people here to creating visualization for nonprofit organization. And you might think that's creating visualization is nothing, guys. It is a huge thing because you really help people to understand their own data and make informed decisions and achieve their mission much more efficiently. So I am still so obsessed with this for social good and so happy to have you all here to contribute to something really important. And yeah, thank you all. It's good to say hi, and hopefully I'll get to keep in touch with some of you all after this session. And huge shout out to Doc and Frederick for hosting this. I am so happy to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So great to have you, Chloe. We really appreciate you and all that you did to get this organization going. And we all love to just play a small role in trying to keep it going. But thanks for coming here and inspiring everybody. And really appreciate what you've done. So next we want to hand it over to Abbie from Bridges to Prosperity. This project officially kicks off and starts today, June 10th, or sorry, Frederick, yesterday for you. And the deadline to submit will be the 15th of July. And we'll come together for those volunteer presentations that we were just talking about on July 23rd. So that's our basic schedule. And again, you can go to the website and you can join a project and get the information and start working on it as we are kicking it off today. So let me pass it off to Abbie, and let's hear about Bridges to Prosperity.
Hey everybody, very, very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Thanks for taking on the second Bridges to Prosperity project. We feel very honored. I'm joining you here from Denver, Colorado, as is my colleague, Christina Barstow. Most of our staff, though, are in East Africa. Would love to invite them to join the volunteer presentations a bit later on. So for those of you who are not familiar with who we are as an organization, our mission is to build bridges to better lives. It's not a metaphor. We literally build trail bridges so that people can reach essential services and opportunities in rural areas. To date, as of literally today, we have built 399 bridges. We're so close to 400. And those bridges serve approximately 1.4 million people across 20 countries. We currently have active programs in Uganda, Rwanda, and Ethiopia, and active needs assessments in Zambia and Cote d'Ivoire. Our historic approach as an organization has really been to work very closely with local governments and communities to build bridges. And at our peak, we were building about 40 a year. We still do that. That's still a big, big part of our work. But over the last several years, we have shifted our focus to trying to solve this problem on a global scale. We estimate that on the low end, there's probably something like 100,000 trail bridges that need to be built around the world to solve this problem. The more needs assessments I do, the more convinced I am that it's actually a much higher number. 40 bridges a year is not going to put a dent in that, right? Significant for those communities, but this is not tackling this, and we do believe it's a solvable problem. And so we have shifted our strategy to focus on not just building trail bridges, but helping governments, communities, other stakeholders get bridges built, right? So not just the brick and mortar piece of it, but how do you mobilize funding? How do you identify sites and prioritize those? What do you do about maintenance? And so our current strategy focuses on technical assistance, which is sharing a lot of the knowledge that we've collected over 20 years of building bridges in very rural environments. Evidence, which is my department at B2P, and also includes everything we do to visualize the evidence that we collect and then we create, that we consolidate as an organization, and then advocacy. So this project, even though it's very closely connected to evidence, the project that we're asking you to take on this time is really focused on advocacy. And so I'll get into a little bit of exactly what we're asking in just a bit. But I mentioned this is our second project with Viz for Social Good. The first project first focused on visualizing our population catchment surveys, which was really about illustrating the geographic reach of trail bridges, because what we were constantly running into is an assumption that a trail bridge really only serves the communities on either side. What we found is that a trail bridge in Rwanda, on average, serves about 33 communities across 45 square miles, pretty massive. And obviously saying that is very different from being able to visualize that. And so we shared some spatial data. This team of people and lots of volunteers helped us visualize it in some really beautiful ways. We were able to use that in a very successful year-end campaign. And actually the component of that is still up. We still update it and still keep that Viz updated, which is pretty exciting. It's a big part of our website. It inspired a revision of our web map in the evidence section of our website that's currently underway, and we hope to publish at some point in the not too distant future. And then that work also continues to be included in anything we put together to share the results of our catchment work, because that's an ongoing monitoring program for us. I have to say that I have worked in the nonprofit sector for my entire career. I have worked with thousands and thousands of volunteers. Don't tell anybody outside of this call, this is my favorite group of volunteers that I've ever worked with. And I promise I'm not just blowing smoke. I think what makes Viz for Social Good volunteers so special is the level of engagement and this special combination of applying expertise and learning and enthusiasm in a really specific way. I have just been consistently blown away by the insightfulness of questions and the commitment to making sure that we get value out of the projects that you're working on. That's really cool and exciting, and it's a big reason why we're back, and so happy to be back with another project. It also combines expertise and community and learning and obviously data, all things that I really love and are sort of foundational to who we are as an organization. So that first project was a bit more general in terms of how we would use the visualizations. We knew we needed to visualize it. We didn't quite have a sense of how we would use that, although we have since figured it out and applied it pretty specifically. This time, we really know exactly how we want to use these visualizations. We're also asking for a lot more visualizations and a lot more breadth in terms of what we're asking you to do. I have no doubt that folks will have a lot of questions about it. And so is there still a Slack group actually for Viz for Social Good? Okay, great. Well, then I'll make sure I rejoin that community. And if you wouldn't mind making sure that I'm in the right channels, then I'll try to ask questions as much as possible or answer questions as much as possible to make sure that it's really clear, because what we're asking you for is a bit more complicated. So the value in investing in rural access for pedestrians, motorcyclists, cyclists, which is how most people in the poor rural parts of the world get around, is underappreciated and not understood to the degree to which we wish it was, both for an advocacy perspective, from a funding perspective, from an impact perspective. There's an incredibly high return on investment in investing in rural transportation infrastructure, specifically to serve those populations. But that's not something that's very well known. And that's why advocacy is a big part of our strategy right now. So what we're asking, or what we're already working on and putting together, is 4 briefs, literally documents that tackle 4 specific areas that are outlined in that data dictionary. And so those 4 areas are the ones that Christina and her team, she's the chief of strategy at B2P and leads advocacy for our organization, have identified as the 4 key areas where we need to change hearts and minds through evidence. Each one of those brief outlines has a number of potential visualizations, whether it be statistics or data sets that we think will help people understand why that particular topic area is so important. And what we're asking for is ideas and examples of how we could visualize those data sets or statistics in a printed or PDF briefed form. So that's not to say that, that every visualization has to be translatable to a printed product, but that's the main thing that we're trying to get out of it. I think Christina and I would be very open to seeing kind of companion pieces that are more digital and interactive. Very happy to hear questions and ideas for how we can do this. But instead of, kind of one data set that could be visualized in a gorgeous Tableau dashboard, as I've seen Viz for Social Good volunteers do many, many times before, we're looking for more discrete visualizations for this. The ultimate goal here is to change hearts, minds, funding streams with data and with visualization of that data. At B2P, we're obviously very concerned and in love with the idea of a world where poverty no longer exists. But for us, we're really focused on achieving that goal through evidence and through doing the most efficient, most effective interventions possible. And we think that rural access is a big, big part of how we're going to solve poverty, and particularly rural poverty at a global scale. And so these briefs specifically speak to the audiences of people that we need to convince that this is worth investing in, whether it be governments, aid funders, private philanthropy, or leaders and policymakers in the space. So all of the information is in, there's quite a bit there. So all of it is in the data dictionary. I'm happy to answer questions here today, but I also promise I'm on Slack all day, every day for work at B2P. So I'm also very excited to hear your questions and answer them there and kind of dig into it. I will be the main point of contact, but Christina, who's on the call here today, and whose work really encompasses or includes this, she's really the person who's driving this project in terms of the brief. She'll be around as well, and any questions I can't answer, I'll make sure that we get them to her and her team promptly. Did I miss anything? Is there anything that you'd like me to cover that I haven't done so far?
No, I think you've hit all the main things, and you've reminded me that not only do you want to go to the website, and again, the link is there to join a project and join this project, but also there is the Slack channel, and so you can click to join the Slack channel. Because as a professor, I give my students the data set and I say, go off and do this, and they go off and maybe they'll ask me a question or two, but typically they don't. And they will just go off and create something and turn it back in. Whereas our seasoned volunteers, folks who have been doing this for a while, they love to get into that Slack channel and ask questions. Well, what do you really mean here? And is this what you really want there? And oh, I'm not sure we can do this. Can you provide this extra piece of data that we might need? And so we get a really rich discussion going in there when we have charities and nonprofits that are active in the Slack channel. And I know Abbie and her team were really active for that first project. So I can't imagine that we'll have anything but more activity in that Slack channel and more discussions and people combining and adding more data to what you've already put out there. So it's a really important thing to note that we do have that Slack channel, and that during this time period from today through July 15th, for folks to join the project, get into the Slack channel and ask questions and see what other folks are asking, and learn through the process. We all get better the more that we go through and follow through on the process that we've set up. And sometimes I forget that. So it's always good to have those reminders of all the tools and techniques that we have available for you to run through and do these projects. So again, I don't know that any of our volunteers have had a chance to go and look at it, but again, the information will be all out on the website, and it will be available to anybody. So feel free to share it with folks that are out there. Let me just go ahead rather than waiting for the Q&A. Does anybody have a question for Abbie or Christina? Does anybody have any
initial? I have a question. Hi, I'm Fabrice. I actually just joined Peace for Social Good. I've been actually looking for something like that for quite a while, and I met Frederick who introduced me to the group. So so my key question was around, so I did a little study in the past on social impact theory. And one of the things that they told us is that the different stakeholders actually have different objectives. I mean, it seems obvious, like, okay, it's a not-for-profit, it's meant everyone's supposed to be aligned and want the same thing. But I guess my question is, I think it might be an important information to know, perhaps broadly, what are they looking for, then, so that when looking into the data, we can actually present it to try to tackle all the angles. So we have government, aid funders, philanthropy. I'd imagine that they want something slightly different. And so is that something that you'll be sharing with us, or yeah, that's it. Thank you.
I'd love for Dr. Barstow to take this question, Christina, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think, our primary stakeholder is always governments that we work with. So if you're getting bogged down on that and you want to pick one, try and think of kind of that lens. What is government really thinking about? And one of the things that Abbie mentioned is they kind of tend towards ROI, economic data. And so we kind of look at a lot of this data and kind of change it to that lens. But the 4 topics that we've kind of highlighted here, which are one of them is like feeder roads. We have one that's about climate change. We have one that's about what we call the rural urban nexus and agriculture. All 4 of those topics are ones that have bubbled up from our government partners or our aid partners. So when we talk about aid partners, we're talking about like the World Bank, African Development Bank, these folks that are driving large amounts of money into our government partners. So we're still kind of also in that government space. So yeah, well, I absolutely agree with you. And it's something that, to be frank, we've kind of struggled with. How do we hit all audiences at one time? Our advocacy space is really focused in on kind of government and those global aid partners.
That's great. That answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the question. And again, that's what we try and do through the Slack channel. So as people have questions, we encourage you to go to the Slack channel, ask those questions, and we try and direct them and remind folks, hey, have you checked? And some are better than others. And I know that Abbie and her crew were great the first time we worked with them. So I really look forward to working with them again over the next, what is this, 5 weeks or so? And really seeing how many volunteers we can get involved. Not in session right now, so I won't be able to get my students tackling this until the spring. When we start having the projects in the spring, I'll start having students again to throw at it. But we're in the middle of summer, so I don't have any students to throw at this, but I know we've got a number of volunteers out there, including quite a few that are on the call today. Look forward to seeing what they come up with. So thanks again, Abbie and Christina. We look forward to working with you over the next 5 weeks. And of course, I always look forward to July 23rd when we have the session and we get to see which ones you chose out of all the submissions and which volunteers we get to show up that day and walk through. And so I encourage everybody, even if yours is not selected, to come and see. These are the ones that were selected. This is what folks liked about them. This is what was useful about them. This is what folks got out of them. And it's really a fun time at the end of the session. I see Fred has his hand up. Fred, question, comment?
I guess both. I'm not about the Slack. So yeah, make sure you join Slack because everything is happening in Slack. But for this project, we're going to try to have mentors as well. We recognize there's a lot of beginners, people that never did this social good project before. So we got a few people that done a project with us. Joanna is one of them. I think Dennis might be online as well. Dennis Carroll. Are you there, Dennis? Can you just say hello quickly? And also Nicole Klassen from the US. So we've got 3 volunteers that be on the watch for your questions. So the purpose of mentors is basically to guide you through basically starting your first project. So if you got specific questions, not specifically data related, but how do I start my dashboard or do I do my project? Joanna, Nicole, and Dennis will be able to give you a bit of an extra hand as mentors or advisors if you want. So thanks for those 3 volunteers to volunteer to be our first mentors for this project.
Yeah, that's great. Really look forward to seeing what folks do as we get a project that we've seen. And so again, you may want to go out and look at the first project and see if you didn't participate in that. You might want to go back and find the first Bridges to Prosperity project back there in our list of projects out on the website. You can also go to the submission tracker and you can see some of them. So lots of resources available. So please interact with us, ask those questions as we go along. And I really look forward to seeing how this project unfolds. All right, well, thanks again. Let's switch gears here. One of the things that we are doing today is also kicking off our Viz for Social Good Champions. Many places and organizations have introduced gamification into their processes and procedures and really have gotten great results. So that's led our organization to stop and go, hey, what could we possibly do along the lines of gamification to see if we can possibly take our group to that next level. So here today, we are ready to kick off and introduce folks to our Viz for Social Good Champions gamification project. And so I guess I'll turn it over to Nisa. Is that right? Are you going to start us off? And then Fred will give us a demo so we can have a little bit chance to see what it is, which means I'm going to have to stop sharing at some point here and let Fred take back over.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doug. And hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Nisa. I'm part of the board of Viz for Social Good and a part of education. As Doug has explained, we as a group we gathered together and we thought, how can we recognize the work, the amazing work that our volunteers are doing towards it's now years? How can we create something that isn't just recognition, but also motivate other people to participate more and to upskill, to have more visualization skills? At the same time, we are helping many organizations as bridge to prosperity. And what we came with the idea was as a gamification. That is always an initiative that promotes a little bit of a competition, but it's healthy competition. And also it's a way that we can take it back to our companies and showcase how we are performing outside of the company itself. So Doug, can we go for the next slide, please? So how does it work? How did we thought about this initiative? It all starts with the submission of the projects. When you are submitting the projects, you will have an option to opt in. And that opt-in is for us as an organization to collect your data and track that data towards the initiatives that you are collaborating with Viz for Social Good. It starts with the project, but you will see that you will have many more other activities that will count and that are giving you the opportunity to accumulate your points. Then those points are collected and they are visualized in a tracker, which is the tracker that Frederick will do the demo in a couple of minutes. And is where you can start seeing how you are ranking in comparison to your region, in comparison to your company, in comparison with overall volunteers, or even for yourself to track to see how many projects have you really contributed during the year and see if you want to contribute more. I wouldn't say less because we all want you to contribute more. So we hope that you will contribute more and more. We also give you the opportunity to get these certifications. And these certifications is what we're saying, something that recognizes your work, but you can take with yourself. Let's say if you have your mid-year review, you can take that to your line manager and say, you know, I'm doing a little bit to upskill outside of the remit of the company. So I'm upskilling with the wider communities. At the same time, I'm contributing for a good cause because I'm helping all these charities and NGOs. And finally, we will celebrate as we normally try, but we will do even more. We'll do a little bit more celebration and recognition of your hard work. So by the end of the year, you will see that we'll have other things coming and we will do additions to this program. But it is a way really to celebrate all the efforts and to really recognize all the effort that you have been doing and the help and support you have been given to Viz for Social Good. Let me show you a little bit how we are counting the points. So as I said, when you do the project submission, we will attribute you 20 points. So this is for each project. Then if you are selected by the non-profit or by the charity, you will get another 10 points. If you attend a Viz for Social community event, you will get another 10 points. But this is only valid if you had submitted a project. Then if you organize a visualization, a Viz for Social Good community event, you will get also another 10 points. The People Choice Award is something that we are introducing, and that is on that Slack channels that we have. For each project, we will have the community on Slack selecting their favorite or their more insightful, and you'll get 5 points. Then our board or the leadership will also choose which are the favorite for that project. And if you are chosen, you'll get additional 5 points. And finally, if you deliver a presentation, or if you want to get involved on the training sessions that Vis for Social Good is leading, or even on a local user group, or let's say if you go to a conference, you are representing Vis for Social Good, you'll get additional 20 points. So this, in a nutshell, is our Vis for Social Good Champions program. As I said, we will be developing as we go along, but I will let Frederick now showcase the demo of what we have, so you have an idea of what we are tracking and how you can visualize your progress and contributions. Thank you.
No pressure, live demos, eh? Especially at 6 o'clock in the morning. Good
Should
morning.
Be fresh, come on.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm in the future. I'm already the 11th of June today. So what you see on the screen is a prototype of a Tableau dashboard Vis for Social Good Champions. The first page is basically the gate to the 2 sections we've already built, the overview tab and then the profile tab. As Nisa said, we're going to build on more sections as we go along and as we get volunteers points. What you see today in the dashboard is testing purpose, and the points are fake points. So when we start the project today or tomorrow, when we start collecting the points, because we going to start from scratch, so there'll be no points. So the points you're seeing in the dashboard are for demo purpose. So it's always better to have a few points in the system. What won't change in that is that first dashboard though. This one is basically a summary of Vis for Social Good and number of countries, number of projects we've helped. So that first dashboard basically shows a map of all our volunteers all over the world. So you can read that we've got almost 900 submissions. So I can't wait for the 1,000 submissions. I hope we might do a bit of a party when we reach the 1,000th submission, helping 35 charities since 2017, I believe, over 40 projects, and basically data displays all the time. So as you can probably guess, we get between 16 for some projects to almost 80 submissions. So it really depends on the project and the activity. We're also able to display the data in different views. Big shout to Soa from one of our volunteers in the community member. She had a crack at the first prototype of the dashboard. I really appreciate working on that project because it was really a team effort, but I think it was quite fun. You can also do some filtering and search for years and projects in there. And you can also highlight and find someone on the map. You can see there's a lot of very active volunteers. Top volunteer is Satoshi in Japan. So I think he's done 19 Tower 20 project. I think he's a big of a star. The next section is where we have the point, which is the profile section. So as you click on the profile, that's basically your home page. In there, I've already highlighted Nicole, which is one of our most active volunteers with Joanna. But the way it works is basically select, find yourself. Let's say, where are we? I guess I'm going to pick anyone. Maybe Joanna. I don't know if you're still in the call or you went back to bed. So pretending Joanna is there. Joanna has done 4 submissions. So those are the real submissions. So she's been quite active. Those points are fake. Obviously, that will go back to 0. But based on what Nisa described the number of points, Joanna has achieved 166 points. And you can see that there's a trend there. So she's going up. She's attended 4 events. She's been selected to present 4 times. And that stuff is real, actually. So Joanna submitted 4 submissions, 4 projects. And every single time she's been selected to present to the charity. So I think she's a big of a star. And she also won 1 award. And you can see that the data shows as well in there. And just as a bit of recap, we've just got, I don't know if you can see on the screen, on the real, when it's published, you'll see, but there's also a recap of the number of points that people award. The next session we're working on, you'll be able to basically download the certificate as well. That would show your name, show the name of the charity you've been volunteering with, and then you can take that as Lisa said, to your managers or your colleagues, or even share that online on social media. I also wanted to quickly show you, I might need to stop sharing and share my screen instead, because I also want to show you the submission tracker, because sometimes people get a bit confused with the submission tracker, which is the website we use to, the website you'll be using to basically submit your project. So on the project page there, when you go to This for Social Good and go to the current project, you click on the current project. As Abbie said, you're going to be reading about the project itself, description. The data is not there yet, so I'm going to put the data link today. So data is not there yet. But the key thing is when you've done your work, you need to submit to us, because we need to know where it is. And that's that form there we're talking about. When you click on the form, it's a Google form. There's basic stuff like email, contact detail, and so on, where you're from, the type of experience you got, job. Some of those are not mandatory. We like understand a bit more what you guys as volunteers. What I want to highlight, obviously this one is the important one. If you do a Tableau dashboard or Power BI, or put your work in a Google or Dropbox folder, that's why you need to share the link in there. If you want to attend the live event, yes or no, that's easy enough. That's the section I want to highlight, focus on for the champion context. As Nisa said, we want you to opt in there. So we want you to be 100% sure that you want to opt in and have your point collected by us. So if you want to opt in, obviously it's a yes. If you're concerned about us collecting your points for different reasons, make sure you click no, and that's it. So we won't put you on our dashboard. We won't collect your point, but keep that in mind. And that's, as you can see, it's a mandatory question. So you either say yes or no. You can still do the dashboard and the work with Bistro Prosperity and be volunteers, but if you don't want to opt in and don't want to be part of that, click no on that. And that's what I wanted to say about the dashboard and the opt-in process. We've got 5-10 minutes, so I think it's good to have Q&A, I guess, if people have questions.
Yeah, we've got time for questions. If anybody has a question for Frederick or Nisa or David or myself or Abbie or Christina, now's the time to ask a question. Again, Slack channel will be open. You'll have opportunities to do it then. But again, if anybody has a question.
Can I also maybe ask, sorry, Kevin, just as a quick fun thing, how many of you, if you raise your hand, how many of you have never participated, are brand new to this for social good and want to try the project? If you raise your hand, you get a sense how many of you are brand new. So quite a bunch.
Yeah. And a word of encouragement, I think every session that I've emceed, there has been a first-time submitter that was selected to present. I think every time, and often multiple people that it's their first time doing it that are selected. So don't feel like, oh, this is my first time, I won't get selected, or maybe I shouldn't do it or whatnot. Please do it, because again, oftentimes first-time submitters are selected every time. And I would also mention for the VFSG Champions stuff, again, I work with college students and interviewing and placement. And I would say somewhere between a third to a half of my students end up getting a follow-up interview because of something they have towards the bottom of their resume, where they talk about charities they work with, things that excite them, things that they do outside of work. Time and time again, I have seen where organizations are interested to see that, and organizations make a connection when it's like, to give you an example, my son, when he was a college student, he did a project for training dogs to go and be helpers for folks. And so that was an interest of his. And when he interviewed at Google, it was somebody who had their dog with them in the office over the Zoom call, and noted that on his resume that, hey, I saw you did a project for dogs. Can you tell me about that? And so again, I encourage folks to get involved and to realize that putting this kind of thing on your resume, on your Vita, and really adding these to your portfolio. I would encourage everybody to have a Tableau public or a Power BI public or wherever. Create your own website and put these things up there as part of your portfolio. I've seen it increase over the years, and I've been doing this for 30 years, only doing Viz for Social Good for the last 5. But I've seen an increase over the years of folks that folks are interested to do these kind of projects, and employers are interested to know, hey, what excites you? What are things that you like to do? And applying and growing your skills outside of the job is something that I'm seeing an upward trend on. So I'm really excited to see us start this program.
Kevin, I've got a question for Abbie. Maybe a comment, or maybe it's a question for all of us that maybe don't dare asking. You said that you want to focus on more, not so much the digital, more the printed type of outcomes. If volunteers create their dashboard as usual in Power BI, Tableau, as we did for the first project, as long as they can export the visual in PDF, images, or PowerPoint, that would work for you, right?
Yes, exactly. Even a screenshot, honestly, because I don't imagine they're going to, we're not blowing anything up that big. But yeah, that's the idea. And the last time around, all the volunteers that we worked with were just incredibly generous, about if there was something that we wanted to apply or tweak a little bit to fit another format. People were pretty wonderful about working with us on that. And we, would love to use this as a starting point and then drill down if there's, time and capacity. And if not, we have a little bit of skill there on our end too, so we could take whatever you have and run with it. But yes, that would work just fine.
A question actually related to that was that if you wanted to have it printed, would it be on A4 or A3? What sort of sizing were you thinking about?
Probably closer to an A4. What is that? Which is closest to standard letter 8.5 by 11 in the States. Though very likely it would be printed more if it was actually to be printed and not a PDF, probably more likely in the UK, Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, that sort of thing. So let's go with A4.
On a different thing, as Lisa said, we 100%, 1000% welcome beginners. So if you've never done any dashboard work before, you just want to learn Tableau or Power BI or other tools, 100% welcome. So don't be shy. It's not for experts. I'm not an expert myself. Nobody's an expert. So and leverage Slack as well. So if you want to be guided by Dennis, who's on the call, I just noticed Dennis happy face on the little icon. Dennis, you want to say hello quickly? If you got your microphone on, that's easy. And Joanna, so those are your mentors. So use them as well. If you're not too sure how to start, use the mentors on Slack. But oh yeah, all levels, beginners to expert. Any more questions? Got 5 minutes.
We got some hands up there. Jessica, do you have a question for us? Or was that raising your hand that your first timer?
That was left up from last time. Okay. First timer, thanks.
I got my hand up for a question. This is Kevin Ford. Wanted to ask Abbie, and yeah, it sounds like it's 5 minutes up, not an hour. So the data gets released later, and there's the comment on the page for the project that the data might be very specific and small, right? It might be like ROI is 2 to 1, right? It might be something small associated with feeder roads. Can you tell us a little bit more about like how sparse the data will be? And probably more appropriately, then the brief has to be more about the content or telling the story about how feeder roads are important. Where do we get that background? Right? Where do we get that information to go in that? That would be almost like a pack to go along with the data to help teach us so we can make the brief off of the knowledge?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did include one example of a brief that we got pretty far with, for one of the topics, just to kind of show you this is what we're thinking. Although literally just today, our development and marketing and advocacy teams kind of came together and put together the outlines and a lot of the text content for all the other briefs. And Frederick, I haven't even had a chance to let you know that. So I just want to get permission from them to share it, but I should be able to share that at least by tomorrow, just to say, like, here's actually the content that we're trying to couch it in. Okay. So it's a little bit of a chicken or the egg issue, because we're not going to finalize the content in the narrative probably without seeing what visualizations we want to use, because if there's a really stunning or exciting visualization, that's going to be more eye-catching than a wall of text. So we'd probably orient it around that. But you also bring up a good point about, how it can be challenging to visualize this kind of work. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring it to this group is kind of crowdsource ideas for how to visualize statistics that are powerful, but maybe just discrete and not representative of a massive complex data set, or even when we don't have access to the data set that drives the statistics. So a good example would be we did an RCT, a randomized control trial, with some economists in Nicaragua a few years ago, and one of the things that they found was that in communities with new trail bridges, farmers were earning, farmers saw a 75% increase in their farm profit, which is really significant, especially when you're considering that most of the people we serve are subsistence farmers. That's a really big deal. That's sort of equivalent to your income increasing by 75%. What would that do for you? But the way that we typically express it is a little graphic of corn and a little arrow, and then a 75% little up arrow, right? And that's not to say that that's not a great, or that doesn't communicate the point, but are we missing some opportunities here to show things like that? And it's the sort of thing where, I've in the past going to put together dummy data to show that increase, but I really, we could use, I think, ideas and input from a community of people that spends a lot of time thinking about how to visualize data, but how could we show this in a more interesting way than a little up arrow next to the number 75%, that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, very good. And one of the tips that I give my students and tell my students to try is to build a dashboard and have interactivity, but then go ahead and have a tab or two where you create an infographic and try your hand at, okay, what would be like a promotional material that they might use? How might I package this in a visually nice way? And so I would encourage folks to think about that as well. I think that's what both Abbie and Frederick were talking about is the interactivity is cool, but ultimately they're going to want to take these and use them, maybe not necessarily in a print way, but it's a PDF, right? It's a static image. And so I encourage my students to try their hand at both. And I encourage the students to go to the website. And so go to Bridge for Prosperity's website. I'm positive, having worked with them before, there's tons of information on their website, but do some searches. And I tell my students, you won't do a good job with this if you don't really start understanding what is the data and understand what that data is and what it represents. And we can have ethical discussions, well, this data actually represents people and towns and whatnot. But I really encourage folks to, really study the data, learn what the data is, what it represents, what the topic is, because you'll have a much better dashboard, and we'll be able to help Bridges to Prosperity more the more that we're not going to become experts, but the more we get familiar with what the data is. And that's kind of a tenet of data visualization. You don't want to go in and be visualizing data that you really don't understand and don't know what this data is. We can end up doing a disservice to folks if we're visualizing data and we don't really understand what that data is. So really encourage you to get in and study it and understand it, and where you don't have that understanding, to ask questions and get folks to help you and point you to where you can learn more about what the data is and what it represents. And it's just really a fun process. At least I view it as a fun process, having done this for 5 or 6 years now. Any other questions that folks might have? If not, Frederick is giving me the motion, but he doesn't have to remind me. I've got to remind folks, hey, come on, folks. I don't see that many cameras on. I think I've got 9 cameras on right now. Can anybody else turn a camera on and join us? It's okay. Look at me. I'm the ugliest one in the room. You don't have to worry about being the ugliest one on the picture. Come on, turn that camera on. Let's see your smiling faces. See how many we can get, because we love, or at least I love, to grab the image and tweet it out and use it in our infographics to show, hey, look at what we've done and look at the projects that we've worked on. So I'm filibustering here as I'm waiting. This is great. What are we up to? My math is bad today. I think I've got 25 cameras on. Very good, very good. Let's see if we can get a few more. Oh, I'm just now seeing that Tristan is here. Hi, Tristan, how are you? We have a celebrity in our midst, folks. We have several celebrities in our midst, but we have Iron Viz contestant and Tableau visionary with us today. I didn't see him before. It's hard when you're presenting. I don't get a chance to see who everybody is out there. Just like I'm sure out of those 13 chats, somebody was saying something to me, and I don't open the chat because I'm recording, and so I don't
worry,
want
I'm watching the chat.
So whatever you were telling me I'm doing wrong, sorry, I didn't get a chance to see it yet. I'll see it in a few minutes. But okay, I've stalled enough. We've got 28 folks out there. So everybody smile, smile, smile. And I will try and remember to smile as I go and grab a picture. Everybody smiles, everybody smiling. I'll try and remember to smile. There we go. All right, very good. Thanks, everybody. You will see that tweeted out. If you don't follow Viz for Social Good, follow Viz for Social Good on Twitter. If you're not on LinkedIn, go out to LinkedIn, because we got a LinkedIn group as well. Again, sign up for the project, sign up for the Slack channel. And I look forward to seeing you all virtually one way or another over the next 5 weeks. And I hope to see you all back in 5 or I guess it's 6 or 7 weeks on tentatively July 23rd at a time where some of us will be late at night, early in the morning. Some of us will get lucky and be the middle of the day. But we will see you, hopefully many of you, back here on July 23rd when we will. We'll have a walkthrough of some of the submissions and Q&A back and forth with Abbie and hopefully Christina as well. So look forward to seeing you folks there. Frederick, any closing? David, anything? Nisa, anybody have anything closing? Anything I missed?
No, big thanks. Yeah, big thanks. That's it. And thanks, Abbie and Christina. You guys are kings. Queens.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks for everyone.
Thank you,
All
everyone.
right.
Beyond,
See you later.
Bye all.
thanks, Doc.
Thank you, sir.